One of my biggest lessons is don't grow too quick. If you have health challenges, absolutely. If you want a sustainable business, forget all the social norms of, oh, I got to make 10K a month or 100K and that's my level of success. No, what do you need for success? What do you need right now just so you can work?
Welcome to Making Change with Your Money, a podcast that highlights the stories and strategies of women who experienced a big life transition and overcame challenges as they redefined financial success for themselves. Now here's your host, certified financial planner, Laura Rotter.
I'm so excited to have as my guest today, Simone Giangiordano. She's the creator of Balance Up Community and is a compassion-based business and lifestyle coach for individuals with health challenges. Her transition from her corporate career of nearly 2 decades to entrepreneurship was the direct result of her health challenges. Simone empowers clients to build successful businesses that support their well-being and focuses on helping individuals find creative solutions around their health challenges so they can transform their lives, their businesses, and their well-being. So welcome, Simone, to the Making Change with Your Money podcast.
Thanks, Laura. I'm looking forward to our conversation. We all have such different stories about money.
Yes, and so I will start with asking you about yours. Simone, what was money like in your family growing up?
Well, surprisingly, I thought we were upper middle class. But in reality, we were probably considered on the poor side of things. But I never, ever would have suspected that growing up in a small rural town in Pennsylvania. So, for example, a little funny story to sort of share how so. I was one of 6 kids. Growing up, for example, we used to get a lot of company. So community was really, really big. So never felt for need of anything. But so a friend of the family, when the plate was going around, grabbed several meatballs. I was a little young to notice, but other people's jaw dropped because that meant that many people extra were not going to have a meatball that night. So it was 1 meatball per person. So very different from a lot of the excess that we experience today in society, like just food going in the dumpster and so forth, and these really large servings. So,
but you said that you didn't catch it when you were younger. So how did you, what was communicated to you and when did you start to realize?
Growing up, for example, my dad loved to take me shopping because I never asked for anything. So, we grew up in the country.
Where were you in the birth order since you say that?
6, number 6.
Oh, so you're the baby.
Yes. So we had such a strong community of friends that there were always people around. We grew up with an open house, people coming, going. You didn't knock. People just came in, friends of my brother's friends. Sometimes you never knew who would be there in the morning when you got up when I was older and my brothers were more teen and college years. And I always thought that was fun. So people liked to gather, collect. It was a safe space for people to go without judgment is how, as an adult, I see it. And to me, I would take, even though we didn't have the funds that maybe a lot of other people in other areas of the country, I don't feel like I missed out on anything there. However, I think our whole town, a big part of it was our whole town would have probably been on the lower socioeconomic scale per se. And I guess as I say that socioeconomic, I said the social aspect, our social aspect thrives. So does the lower financial aspect of the scale almost sounds more appropriate. So when I started to realize it, probably in college, second college, I went to University of Michigan, putting myself through, and I had very minimal clothes. Yes, I loved that college. I had minimal clothes. And this is embarrassing to admit, but because of health challenges, 1 pair of shoes, because I had to have special shoes to keep my balance. And, going out one night, and I remember looking down at the floor of the women around me with their cute shoes on. I had never owned a pair of cute shoes like that. And then just noticing the clothes and noticing they had one of my friends, her mother spoke with her, says in the 80s, right, about you don't need to buy a $200 sweater when you need a sweater. So I realized like, oh my gosh, there's this whole other way of living. But not knowing it, didn't miss anything.
I think what you're sharing, Simone, is so interesting. Several things come up for me, but how we humans, we compare ourselves with others. It's just naturally how our minds work. And so if you're in an environment where everyone financially is pretty similar, generally how I'm about to say grow up, but certainly grew up nowadays with social media and so much. I mean, you can see how the other half lives, but growing up, you have no idea. And so there isn't a sense of scarcity or lack if everyone around you is similar. And then you're reminding me that I did 1 year of law school in Israel, and my roommate was Israeli. And exactly, though I was the other side of it, of what you're describing in college, that she looked at me as I unpacked, and I had sweaters and I had shoes. And I mean, she literally, had, a couple of shirts, a pair of pants she had never seen, nor did she understand, and I had never been questioned before, like, why do you have so much clothes? But it's just was a very different world. Especially that was, now Israel's probably wealthier, but that was, to date myself, 70s. And it was just a very different time. So how did you come to go to school in Michigan when you grew up in a small rural town in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I actually started at Penn State in biochem main campus. That was determined by 8th grade that I would be a biochem major, get my doctorates and so forth. I also did very well in music. And so I decided I wanted to have a career in music, and they were the top school. So I just applied. So I didn't realize how competitive it was to get in. I really didn't have a clue. It's like I wanted that, so I worked towards it. I took a semester off, practiced like crazy, and auditioned and got in. And yeah, that's why I went there. And the clarinet professor was Detroit Symphony's principal and so forth. So I had the honor of studying with like Clark Brody, principal of Chicago Orchestra and so forth. So I loved that environment though, because it was so competitive, but I never felt like I was ever competing with anybody else. It was just this environment to thrive in, to work hard, build your skills, learn from other people. And I really thrived in that environment.
Do you, in general, see yourself as someone who thrives in competitive environments? And I'd love to link that to the fact that you said since you were young, you knew that you wanted to be a biochemist. That says to me someone very directed, very mature, and very driven. So
yeah, I in hindsight, I did not probably think like a typical 18, 15, 16, 17, 8-year-older at all, not even remotely.
How did you know about biochemistry?
Actually, it was kind of thrown at me from guidance counselors, science teachers, and so forth. And I did have an interest. I actually had more of an interest in biomedical engineering, but Penn State didn't have it at the time.
Were you also studying the clarinet at Penn State?
I didn't study. I was in the band, but I didn't study at that time.
I'm curious if you were aware of the financial implications of each major that you chose, and if you were, what role it played.
Penn State would have been a lot better financially because at Michigan, I was out of state. They said I was deep. So 3.5 times tuition, putting myself through. And also they said I was dependent on my parents. And that came off the same year my dad took a retirement for his health. And even though he worked with several financial people, the person who ended up making the transfer messed up, and it all counted as income when he transferred his entire retirement savings. Yeah, exactly. So based on that, the school said, well, your parents should be paying this much and you don't even get a loan now. So the financial implications, I slept on the floor several years. Yeah. There were huge financial implications, but I absolutely loved the school. Yeah, I had student loans for, however long it took me to pay off. It was one of my biggest expenses without a doubt. So did I realize how long-term the financial implications? No, because I didn't think I would have to take as much loans out as I did. So what I did after 2 years, and this is, if I have a regret in life, this is it, not getting to graduate from Michigan. After 2 years, I was out of money and I couldn't get enough loans because of that situation. So I took a year off and worked full time as a temp in General Motors payroll. And then I banquet served like 40 to 50 hours on top of that. And I go back to school, and the financial aid advisor said, "You're still dependent on your parents." I'm like, I got $20 for my birthday and Christmas. Come on. And you're still out of state, even though you've lived here the whole time. And they said, if you would have worked part-time at McDonald's, we could have helped you out, but you made too much. And your parents with what they, so I went back and took a scholarship I had turned down at another university.
Well, you got your 2 years.
Yeah. So that's how that transitioned. So so financial implications were big, definitely, of the different schools. Yeah.
Yes, I know, out of state. I sent a child to Michigan out of state, and similar to you, just love the experience there. Though I think his was really more influenced by the success of the football and basketball team.
Yeah.
Not necessarily.
Big success last year, huh?
Yes, but that's a great school. So then
I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade it to have been able to go. It was very, at that stage in my life, regardless of what it took financially, I absolutely wouldn't trade those 2 years, 3 years there.
And what was the most valuable thing you feel like you took away from that experience?
Just that enforcement that I love to learn and to be around learners and to grow together. So one of probably the most painful things in life for me is being stagnant or surrounded by stagnant.
I'm going to write that down because it's not about who you are. So then what did you do after you graduated?
Went into banking.
Well, that's the clarinet.
You got to pay the loans. It's like, okay, how do I pay these loans now? No, at the second school, I lost interest because the quality didn't begin to compare. The energy just, there was no co-learning, nobody to challenge. I stopped practicing. I grew to really dislike it at that stage. I got so bored that I just wanted away after 2 years there. That's stagnant. So I don't do well around stagnant energy.
It resonates with me. I'm moved to share. When I decided to go back to school for an MBA, for Master's in Business Education, I was not yet at the point. I was working at a bank where they would pay my tuition. So I went to, the school may be very different now, but I went to one of the city universities in New York. And I remember having gone to, one of the Seven Sisters. I was always in very competitive situations, that one of the students raised their hand during the class. And the question was, will this be on the final? I mean, this is a master's program, and the people in my class, again, not to denigrate anyone, different cultures, whatever, but assistant manager at the ShopRite supermarket. And when I ultimately transferred and finished my MBA at NYU, because I was getting tuition reimbursement, and I mean, just the level of discourse in the class was just so different. And it was really eye-opening to me, having not experienced the differences.
I made this analogy, is that I like to say everything gives us energy or drains it. And it's that learning environment gives me energy. Sounds like it gives you energy. And that where it's not, I'm not here to learn, I just want to get through, just drains it. It's hard to keep that energy up when it's not there, supported by others.
Yes. And of course, the professors get a different level of energy from the participants in the class. Dialogue is completely different. So clearly you love banking. No. What were you doing? I mean, there must have been some of your skills that were being used.
I started out with what can I get? So I started out in word processing coordinator, and
Remember that when there were all these word processing teams?
So very quickly, within a couple of months, my manager was training me on financial reporting. So I actually did some of the financial reporting. I didn't get the same pay scale as the financial reporters, but I was doing some of the work, a couple of the affiliates for PNC Bank at the time. And from there, I actually started in as a temp actually at the Securities Corp division. So I went to my old manager up there and I knocked on her door and I said, I have a favor. And she basically offered me a job. Like, we have an opening. And she said, so what was your question? I was, well, doesn't really matter. I was going to ask you if you had any openings coming up. So like one little knock on the door and I migrated from that into the role of an accountant within the securities division. And then from there, I moved to Columbus and it took a lateral move to Huntington National Bank with the mortgage area. And it's funny as I told people, I'm going to work at that building, not only at Huntington National Bank, but I'm going to work at that building. And like, you don't just get to go pick what company you work for. I'm like, but it's 0.6 of a mile from the condo I want to buy. So 2 months later, I was buying my condo. I got the job. I found an opening and I got the job. It was a lateral.
And were you single at the time? You were self?
Oh, yeah. And then from there, I got into beta testing, which moved me in. So the IT individuals were rolling out a new system product, and I was testing it from a user perspective. And then that gave me the skills and the ability to transfer into the IT department, being like a business analyst and project manager kind of roles. And then went back to PNC and expanded that.
Thank you. So as you're a self-described lifelong learner, what
Yes.
were you learning that you enjoyed?
In systems, you're always new projects are always different. So it might take you 6 months to really even begin to get a good handle on the system. So it's not just walk in and know your job. You got to know the people. You need to build those relationships. You're at different levels, operational, up through legal counsel to executives and so forth. So there's that wide variety. There's a lot going on to manage. It's, learning so many different attributes of the business. And each project is going to bring new challenges. Every project's going to bring new challenges, whether it's, you have the personnel challenges, but you also have the skills, literally like the skills like SQL language and that kind of stuff to learn. Maybe here's a new, MS project, there's another skill, but then also the actual business knowledge itself. So you have a mix of relationships, analytical, soft skills, hard skills, everything there.
When you think about what you enjoy doing best, as we then learn how you made changes because of your health, but as you look at that period of your life, what did you enjoy the most?
And I think back, I'm sitting in that cube there meeting. I enjoyed the getting into all the details to ensure that the business operational areas, that their needs were being met and that they understood what they were really asking for and getting, and translating that into the requirements to be coded and tested. So it's transferring that information, putting it from here's the operational area, doing the mock-ups, what they want, and being able to translate into almost a different language that this team would then be able to use so that this team got what they wanted.
So it really is a mixture, as you're describing it, Simone, of the soft and the hard skills, right? Because the soft skills of what each team needs, almost like what's the why of each team, and then the hard skills of actually in place.
Yeah, good combination there of both.
Which it sounds like that's what you enjoy. So what precipitated you changing this corporate roles that you had?
Yeah, so this would have been back in 4 days after our honeymoon in 2006. I took a bad fall on ice. Very bad fall. So if you can tell, I'm standing because I hardly ever sit down, just too pain. I can't work for a long sitting. So that fall, it actually, I think in hindsight that until the last couple of years, I struggled a lot with my analytical skills. I couldn't process things. I actually got to where it was hard to make breakfast.
What, did you hit your head? What did
I herniated a couple discs in my neck. So I hurt my neck and my back, but I broke my ankle. That got diagnosed. I came back. I went up, came flat down. but I was trained for a triathlon at the time. So I had a thick backpack. So I had my neck swung back, but I was like this far off the ground. So it didn't hit. Thankfully, I would have cracked my head open. So my health just I worked from home for 3 months because I had so much trouble getting around. And what that accident did, it flared. I had several autoimmune issues plus lung issues, and it flared everything. And once one thing started flaring, everything flared, and my neck didn't get diagnosed. So when I couldn't shower by myself or dress myself, I actually went to the doctor, but because I had other chronic health challenges, I assumed that was why. When you have health challenges, to go in, pick one topic, stick to that, make it short, make it quick, and just be very direct with that. So I can't lift my arms. I can't dress myself. I can't shower myself. I can hardly move my head. Pretty much what I said. Doctor was looking at the wall the whole time. He said, "So why are you crying?" I had one tear. I wasn't even crying. I had one tear. And I just left and vowed to never go again. So 4 years later, my husband went to his boss in tears, like, "I don't know what to do with her. She can't function." And he got his daughter on the phone who worked at Johns Hopkins and said, "This is what you need to do." So then I go and finally get the testing I should have had 4 years prior. And they're like, "Well, we have bad news. You're going to be miserable. There's nothing you can do. You can take pain medicine. Don't go to the chiropractor or anything. It's too dangerous. And you're just probably not going to be able to work long." But I had already left the career at that point. So as after the fall, everything just kept getting worse and worse. And in hindsight, just all these different health issues flared. They all became one big mess of you couldn't even tell what was what. I got to where I was having a lot of hospital visits for my lungs and so forth, breathing and so forth. So it just became one day I was just trying to get coffee. Then when I went back to work, I worked out of a conference room because I couldn't walk between the buildings. So I worked in the business area in a conference room, and I was just trying to get coffee to get through the day. And it was less than a block. I couldn't make it. And a couple coworkers happened to walk past me, and they saw me, and I was just kind of standing there in a daze trying not to fall when they walked by. And they wanted to call an ambulance. I was like, no, please, just get me back and call my husband. And he's like, "Why don't you just leave? This job's killing you." I was like, I went in the next day and gave 5 weeks notice. It just came. I couldn't function. I was struggling to function.
And that's 15 years ago? Like 2010?
December of 2006, I fell and I left in early 2008. So 1 year, 13, 14 months later. So very early 2008. Yeah.
Were there any financial implications of leaving just,
Yeah. We went down to one. I actually had the higher income. So yes. And then you add to that the healthcare expenses and so forth. So absolutely. So back to childhood, my dad, we did talk about money, but it was like, yeah, you save, you get a good job, you save, right? No surprise there from generational. So I saved from day one. Absolutely. Because I like to play in spreadsheets and calculate and forecast, right? I'm a nerd.
Woman after my own heart.
But yeah, the financial implications of that was that savings of almost 20 years was gone. There's the desire to stay working and not to go on disability. On the same token, individuals, when you go on disability, then you can really support yourself with your well-being, what you need to do to heal and get as healthy. But then if you make too much, you're going to lose disability, but it doesn't mean you're able to maintain a full job at that point. So there's just this whole balancing act. And thankfully, yeah, I never went on disability. I even had doctors tell me to at times, but I did my best. And there's nothing wrong with being on disability, but I love to work. It's learning for me. It's like, I don't want, I'm going to do everything I can to fight for that ability to work. So yeah, huge financial implications.
Thank you for sharing that, Simone. And I'm wondering, you said that they let you work in a conference room. I'm curious what you've seen from workplaces in your own experience, and I'm sure now paying attention in general, how support might have shifted for you when this first happened.
Now I maybe could have saved my career. and finances and had a much bigger savings than where we're at. There was minimal at that point. I did work from home on Fridays, and they did let me work from home for 3 months, but I couldn't, there was no way I was getting into the office. I mean, literally at that time, I was struggling to dress myself. And, with a little bit more flexibility, I don't even need to reduce my hours. And I mean, come on, we worked way more than what we're being paid for. But to be able to go and get the medical massages that were recommended I couldn't do them in the business hours allotted, and to say, hey, you know what, I understand from a scheduling perspective, there's meetings we need to know when, but you know what, I can schedule these on this certain time every week or something. But there is this no even ability really to have those conversations. You maybe tested the waters, but at that point in time, still, I think it was, you had to be real careful. And I think you still need to be careful. I don't recommend everyone just go immediately share your health challenge, because stigma, it is there. It is absolutely there. We can want to say it's not, but we're all humans and we all have experiences, and it's there. We have these biases, period. We do. So I say tread lightly there. And I'm so happy to see so much changing with the ability for those conversations to open up and be supported. So I'm not saying to, and I'm not saying not to. It's every individual needs to look at the organization, look how much they're back in the talk, what's the relationships like, and realize if you get promoted or something, you could be in a different team, and that, just look at the whole big picture before. But on the same token, I couldn't hide anything. So you would have thought it just wasn't the culture at all.
And it's slowly shifting, and probably shifting, and correct me if I'm wrong, almost at larger organizations that have larger HR departments that at least think about these things. I don't know. And I guess
I think maybe some smaller places might be easier, actually.
Depends on the personalities and who.
Yeah, actually, absolutely. I think some smaller places might be able to more easily handle some of the flexibility needs. Larger corporations might be able to more financially handle, hey, can I have something that works better? Ergonomic. I struggle to say that word. Ergonomic. I'm standing now. If I had to sit, I'm going to work an hour a day, whereas I can do 6 or 7 or 8 standing. So
you need a standing desk.
Yes, absolutely. So I think larger can handle the financial aspects more, but I think maybe smaller, because there's less to organize between teams and so forth, with some of the flexibility needs around scheduling. Would actually be my guess. I don't know. There's other people would be much more knowledgeable on that at this point in the corporate world and so forth.
That's true. So what was we talked about that you're in 2008, you cannot go on working for the company. And so what did you do as a self-described learner?
So it came down to, what can I possibly do if it's 2 hours and it's 2 a.m? Okay. My business started out as a virtual assistant, basically, before it was really a knowing of a thing. And that worked well. So I took on only work. I'm right off the bat, I'm not going to work with realtors. I'm not going to work with morticians. I mean, these are industries where you need to be available today. I mean, there's flexibility, but there's no flexibility. It's on demand. So I built a clientele very quickly of individuals who met those business needs and then as I did that gave me the space to focus on my health and well-being, to heal more as much as I could. Now, the challenge was I grew too quickly, too much success. So one of my biggest lessons is don't grow too quick. If you have health challenges, absolutely. If you want a sustainable business, forget all the social norms of, I got to make 10K a month or 100K, and that's my level of success. No, what do you need for success? What do you need right now just so you can work? So I ended up having to shut down 3 times in the first 5 years until I really figured out the sustainable growth aspect. So growing too fast, taking on really great opportunities were my nemesis, per se. And the final and third shutdown, I actually wanted to hire a sales participate in an expensive sales training program here in Pittsburgh. And after an hour conversation, I thought went pretty good. He sits me down and he points to a poster on the wall that had a triangle that said mind, body, spirit. And he said, look, your mind and spirit are great, but until you learn how to take care of your body, your health, you're never going to achieve the success you desire. And he had a conversation. So to me, this is where compassion comes into play. He was compassionate enough to see I was really suffering, because at the time in hindsight, this is how I turned my head and that's how I looked up. I could hardly budge it like literally hardly moved, and talked to me about shutting down for 6 months. So I talked to another one of those conversations and decided to shut down for 6 months. I found a peer, transferred my clients, so they were well taken care of. So think peers, not competitors, so we can do each other favors. And I ended up being off for a year. And then I rebranded fully as a marketing boutique business and opened a little storefront 5 miles from downtown Pittsburgh, where I did hands-on training and stuff.
So a couple of things coming to mind. What did you do when you took that year off?
I fired all my doctor. This is one of my concepts, is build a dream team around your needs. So what's impacting you the most? What do you need to solve it? Who do you need to have you help? So I never, when I work with anyone, say it's all me. We're going to build your team. Fired all my doctors and built a whole new team. So I participated in yoga, Iyengar yoga specifically. Wasn't allowed to be in the class. So I was in a therapy class. There was like 5 of us with 3 instructors. We each had our own custom program with hands-on help the whole time. I did Pilates-based physical therapy, 3.5 hours, 3 times a week. Isometrics, because I rebuilding strength, isometrics, so those kinds of things. Really focus on my nutrition and just building out a whole new team around my health and well-being. And then also my business, looking for a business mentor and so forth.
Now, as I understood it, or I didn't understand the work you originally did as a virtual assistant to be marketing related.
I mainly took on marketing work through that, and then I just turned it into a market. So I've been doing marketing since 2008 with that business. Yeah.
And I'm curious what parallel, if any, you see between what we discussed earlier, right? You were using both soft and hard skills in your corporate jobs. In what way do you see that you were doing the same in this virtual assistant work?
I'll call it marketing, because I never actually maybe I did. I don't even remember. It went to marketing real quickly, the work. I would say talking with the clients, my strategy meetings. I officially rebranded fully as a marketing business then. So my strategy meetings, they really became a combination of strategy meeting around their marketing and their long-term marketing, but then also about it. We went so much beyond that. It became into coaching as well. And then really the friendship aspect. I had wonderful clients, really wonderful clients and great relationships. So that all played into role. Networking or participating in entrepreneurial groups, that's going to be the softer skills. But then from the hard skills, is learning new programs, constant contact has been one of the main ones, but different scheduling tools. If you want to take it all the way to SEMrush, which, for SEO, you're doing the tech aspect, or you can be connecting that to Google Search Console. You can get into some techie stuff there as well. And so you can be running your own reporting and everything, and creating a dashboard of key metrics and everything. So I still kept doing both.
Oh, so you were challenging yourself intellectually in terms of learning new skills, learning new apps. So you were dealing with new people in terms of clients you were meeting.
Yeah, in 2017. So we moved in 2016, again, due to my health. Little theme there. Big changes in life always seem to have been impacted due to health, related to health. And end of 2015, I was struggling to function. 10 minutes on the phone was putting me back in bed, but my business foundation was so good. And I had such a good relationship with my clients, and the process is so well done, and some employee really well trained, that I was able to keep the business going. Even though 10 minutes on the phone, I'm in the bed for the rest of the day. Oh my gosh, I did something for 30 minutes. I'm in bed for the rest of the day kind of thing. So I spent 3 months in Florida trying to get myself and still working healthier. And I just found this person who really, really helped me. What had happened, I kept getting bronchitis and pneumonia over and over and over, and just got into the cycle. My body was never able to heal. So it was taking me 3-4 months recovery every time. So basically it took way too many hospital visits and so forth. And it got to where I had a collapsed lung trying to breathe, broke a rib trying to breathe. So yeah, so I did so well. And everybody's like, when are you moving to Florida? I'm like, never. I'm going to be a snowbird. And then here I come back to Pittsburgh early April. Within 7 days, I knew I was going to be in the hospital the next day. So I hopped a flight back to Florida, hoping to stay out of the hospital. My body, got to where it just started shutting down in the cold. Like literally my jowls would come way out, ash, and I just no longer a possibility. So 22nd conversation the next day with my husband. We need to talk. He said, we need to move, right? I said, yeah. And he started selling stuff that day.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a wonderful spouse.
Yeah. So from all my marketing experience, so then caregiving for my father in Florida, I always tried to hide these health challenges or deny them or just, I hated to keep logs because I think, oh, that was just, yeah. I'm like, I feel so good. And I'm like, oh, it was yesterday I was in the hospital or something. You know what I mean? It's like, it was yesterday I was in bed. It's like, so when my father became ill and I pulled my marketing business way back so we could be caregivers. And to be there, and that experience was just so inspirational and peaceful to be able to be there and support him at that time. And I just felt like the life lesson I learned, my dad was a learner too, is that all that matters in the end is the impact we have and the love we share. And if you're familiar with my song, that's the whole theme behind the song, Courage to Be You. And what came of that is I decided if I really wanted to serve people, to have that impact doesn't mean having a building named after me or anything. It means, how do I touch people here and now every day in a way that it touches their life in a positive way? That's it. Saying hi to somebody with a smile, that's an impact. So I decided it was time to come clean with all these health challenges per se, of how much we had been struggling and trying to hide and the financial implications of that, so I could help other business owners or individuals leaving the business world because of their health, so that they could also do their best to continue to work. It comes down to, I put a lot of dignity in the right to work, the ability to work. So if we're able, and not everybody's able, but if we're able, so we can support individuals who truly can't, but also work to find the ways for those of us who are able to, even if there's challenges.
That's really a beautiful mission, and seems really appropriate for you, given everything you've been through, for that to be where you're putting your energies. So how do people find out about you?
So my website's the best place, Simone.
So actually, I know I've asked this question once to someone and had the same reaction. Not how do people who are hearing you find out about you? That I will certainly put in the show. But how do people come to you?
Oh, I gotcha. Referrals. For example, my prior business coach has mentioned, hey, maybe you should talk to her. Actually, through some of my blogging and so forth, online, social, and blogging, those, and word of mouth, definitely.
I'm curious, Simone, what kind of energy you have, like it must be hard, as you've said, you have to learn, frankly, we all have to learn this, but you're a better pupil because of everything you've been through, to limit, right? How do you limit the client base? How do you decide who you will work with and who can come back in 6 months, or however you limit the energy required?
When I built the business from day one, I focused very much on the business model. So, for example, my full program is limited to 3 to 5 individuals a year, the full program. But there's pieces of the program that everybody doesn't need that whole program. There's pieces of the program that individuals can learn. And then I also have taken part of it's private coaching, but I also use programs but they're guidelines. There's no cookie cutter in any of this. It's because it's all about we're unique individuals finding unique solutions that work for each individual and where they're at that time, so that then they get past that challenge and have a challenge, something that didn't seem like such a big deal. Now's their big deal. That's the whole concept of balance up. So my initial business model. On the same token, I have videos with parts of the program so that we can really they can do some work and we can really focus on navigating through and what did we learn from that and pulling out, the solutions, but so they can do a lot of that back work on their own and own time there. I do want to take more of it to fully online. The main reason, this has been from day one, I just haven't fully done that yet, and that is the socioeconomic impact of these kinds of challenges is huge. So how do you reach individuals who are not financially able at this point to do the full program? Yeah, that really has been a driving force from day one to do that.
To make more of a online course with support so that you can serve individuals at a lower price point.
Yeah, definitely, because the economic impact of it, socioeconomic impact is there.
So when did you actually start Balance Up? Is that, the balance?
2019 is when I opened the business officially. And then I still had my marketing business to phase down still. So it's closed at this point. But yeah. So I did a lot of coaching through the marketing business as well. So that played in as well, those skills. And that's one thing. It's like, it's great to pursue our passions, but it doesn't mean we have to start there. If you know what I mean? So I started out with, what can I do if I can work 2 hours and it's 2 a.m? Were these projects I would want to do long-term? No. But were they giving me skills in developing new relationships on my own outside the workforce? Were they giving me skills in how to manage this business, how to set up the legal aspect, how to set up systems, how to do CR, all those aspects, how to market? Yes. And those are all valuable skills for the future. So we don't have to, sometimes there's so much pressure. You got to do your passion. You have to do your passion. You have to do it now. And if not, you aren't, fulfilling your life. Well, there's different ways to do our passion. We can do it as a hobby too. And that's okay.
And I guess I always look at it as like, what's the next best decision? And trust, I'll use the word the universe, have faith that by listening inside and just taking the next best step, that you will be guided, and that life isn't this, straight linear path. Here's my passion and I'm going to do it. But it's a painting. It's a creative solution. And every role we take, every setback we experience is just a piece of that painting, yet another brushstroke in the painting. And trust that when you would look back, you might see the actual picture, but in the moment, it's really a leap of faith, if you will.
You're talking my language. It's always too like, do you want a blank canvas to create from and navigate along the way, or you want this canvas that's already got this rut in it and that's where you're supposed to go? I don't know. To me, I'd rather have setbacks and stuff and be more creative along the way and learn and have more experiences. And okay, here's this path to what I thought would be, my success, but it doesn't feel so successful now that I'm there.
And so that's a great segue to the last question I like to ask as we're coming to the end of our conversation, Simone, which is, how has your definition of success shifted?
Oh, okay. So I did used to focus on the financial savings aspect because I enjoyed playing with numbers and forecasting and so forth. But I have always kind of looked at the whole life circle of, I used to New Year's Eve stay home by myself and do a self-actualized plan, if that tells you anything about my nerdiness. So to me, success is community, so important. Having community, having love in our lives, having peace, and having that avenue for sharing our gifts. And for me personally, I see money more as a tool that helps me achieve that helps me share with others and so forth. So, and I think that level of success then, yeah, not so much meeting a specific goal. That's not how I see success. I did used to see it as a goal, but that's not anymore. It's more, how do I feel? Am I living and am I growing? And I wear this bracelet every day to remind me. It just says Simone lives. Reminds me just to be grateful for every day.
That is so beautiful. Certainly as we age, perhaps it's appropriate when we're younger to have goals and have financial goals. That's how you set your stability. And then as you get older, you realize that every day is a gift. That if we have a roof over our head, we can pay for our health care, we can eat, then we've met our needs, and the other needs are not necessarily financial. And I hope you found yourself a community in Florida, and it sounds like you've always had a supportive spouse, and that you remind yourself of this gratitude every day. So as we wrap up, is there anything else you want to be sure to share with our listeners? I will be putting your information on in the show notes.
Yeah, I think, just if anyone listening or watching does have health challenges, that I know how frustrating it can be and sometimes how lonely it can feel. And, there can be this sense of feeling like losing a sense of self or feeling stigmatized from other individuals, that in reality, our health does not define us. It's one aspect of our well-being. It's an experience. And and this comes from somebody who has been strong in denial, the sooner we're able to say yes, and instead of trying to push through, I can do this, is accept this is a true challenge or limitation that I'm experiencing right now. The sooner we can come up with solutions that work and support us to living well.
And reach out for help from Simone, who has years of experience with this. So thank you so much for being my guest.
Thanks for listening to Making Change with Your Money. Certified financial planner Laura Rotter specializes in helping people just like you organize, clarify, and invest their money in order to support a life of purpose and meaning. Go to www.trueabundanceadvisors.com/workbook for a free resource to help you on your journey. Disclaimer, please remember that the information shared by this podcast does not constitute accounting, legal, tax, investment, or financial advice. It's for information purposes only. You should seek appropriate professional advice for your specific information.